Hello everybody, I am Mindy from Quilting Mayhem, and I am here for the Quilt Sociational. Scrappy Makes Me Happy is our theme this month. So today I just want to talk about scraps, like scraps in general, how to deal with them, and just some of my suggestions of how to use them up. A lot of people these days are working on their stash, but you need to know what to do. So maybe you have a bucket like this. This is just one small part of my stash. But you have, all those pieces that are, too big to throw away, right? Because you're like, I can still use this for something. I even have little orphan blocks in here. And this is just my, someday I'm going to use these things up. And, I've been quilting for some time now, 30-ish years. And, when I first started quilting, Scrappy was it was in. There was scrap saver rulers, all kinds of stuff for managing scraps. And so there's different thought processes on how to handle scraps. And there are a lot of people, they trim them down into different sizes. So a lot of people have that theory of, you take your rulers and you start cutting them up. So you have, say, 2.5-inch strips, 5-inch squares, 10-inch squares, so that you're ready if you need like a jelly roll project or a charm square project. And that is a perfectly valid, great way to organize scraps, is just cut them into size, have them organized that way. There's also the people that organize them by color. Like this bin of mine, this is actually kind of my neutrals, low volume, and then, this little purple guy kind of snuck his way in into that bin. But the idea was, these are all my neutrals. So if I needed something low volume, background scrappy, I would just grab this and then I would be ready to go. So, sometimes you just want to think about, how do you want to manage your scraps? Do you want them cut, prepped, ready to go? Do you want them colorized in your sewing room? Like I have an IKEA cabinet that has them bins, and they're organized all by color. So if I need reds for a project, I can go to the red cube and just pull those out. So sometimes you just want to think about how you want to tackle it and then get to it. You just got to carve out time. Sometimes you just have to think about, do you need an hour a week? Maybe just do it for a day and be like, I'm just going to get these ready so that I can. All those things. Like scraps are just such a large topic that it's kind of fun to think about all the different ways. Then, of course, I wore this guy today, even though it's a little warm out, to show that you could take your scraps, turn them into a block, and then turn them into a garment. This is just your good old Costco sweatshirt that I just took some scraps out of my bin from a different project, made a block, and then just stitched it onto the sweatshirt. So it's just kind of top stitched onto that bad boy. Super cute, I love it. And I actually used this book, The Quilt Block Genius, to find this block design that I liked, because I wanted this fox in the middle. But say, if you just have regular fabric, you could just pick any kind of block. This has over 300 blocks in it. So I do love this book for when I'm just trying to figure out what to do with fabrics, because you can mix and match, have all kinds of fun, and you could tackle an entire scrap pile just from this book and maybe play your way through a bunch of the blocks and start using up those fabrics and turn into a sampler quilt. Some other things, like here at the store, we have a Stash Buster class. So once a month, you can bring your stash, and they're working through a book. So each year, they change up the book so that they're learning different blocks, different techniques. We try to keep it, kind of fun, so you're not just doing the same thing every year, and you're working through your fabric. So this year, this is the book they picked, Alice's Wonderland Sampler Book. And this one, while, the cover gives you that more vintage feel, trust me, there are people that are using all different kinds of fabrics. They're using tulas, they're using the tildas, all that kind of fun stuff. But what's nice is this one has like applique, English paper piecing, foundation paper piecing, and so they're working their way through this book with their scraps, which is another concept that you could do even at home, is you could get a book like this that's just a nice variety, and then just start kind of pulling fabrics out of your stash and working your way through the quilt. If you're local, you can come join us though. You can go to quiltingmayhem.com, go to our website, and join in, of course, locally, and come have some fun and make some quilty friends in that class. And then, of course, we have some books also to support scraps. And of we got lucky. Lori Holt created a book called Scrappiness is Happiness. How convenient is that? And I think this was a happy accident. I just found this one on our sales floor in the last week. So, and this one is super cute because you're doing all different kinds of projects. I love this Chex Mix one. But I know, you know, especially in Australia, Scrappy is definitely their way to be because they have a harder time getting fabrics. They're not as fabric dense as us. So that's a lot of fun of just working your way through something like that. Then there's the concept of like crumb quilts, which that's been around for a long time. And that is where you're definitely using up your smaller scraps. And Nancy Chong, who teaches for us, actually teaches this as a quilt class also. So if you're local, once again, but you know, like I say, if you're at home, you can go to the website, go to quiltingmayhem.com, and you can look up any of these books, order them, and then start working through your stash. We'll give you an idea. Let's find a fun one. So we have kind of this flower looking one. These books are so much fun. With this one. Look at the waves. This is kind of fun. But once again, maybe getting you out of your box of, you know, learning and doing something different in your scraps. And remember, they're scraps, so play with them because you're already not wasting them. So it's kind of fun to do different things with them.
Hey Mindy, just wanted to let you know that Debbie is saying hi from Indiana.
Oh, yay! Hi, Debbie.
And Sharon is saying hello from East Tennessee.
Oh, Sharon from, all right. East Tennessee and Indiana. Welcome. I love that you guys are here and joining me. I hope you're having fun with your scraps while we're doing all this. So I am the third store today that's doing this, and we're doing this for 3 days. So I love that we have people from all over joining. Hopefully, maybe every last piece. This is another one that I love that's kind of focusing on using up your pieces and showing different techniques in there. And maybe some of you guys have some other ideas and suggestions. I would love to hear some other people's suggestions of how they organize scraps, because that's the one thing I don't know that we asked. This quilt, we're going to try to get close. So the whole reason like I ordered this book is I saw this quilt done at QuiltCon, and it was super cute, and those stars in there, they are tiny, but they had done it with like Ruby Star, where they did like a focal print in the middle of each star, and it was just super cute. So if you're looking for something to work with those focal prints, this is the one, as long as you don't mind little tiny stars, small pieces. And that sometimes is, you know, tough for some people to do. Not everybody likes small pieces, which I'm not always the biggest fan, but I do some tiny piecing. And that is one of the conversations sometimes is what is too small for a scrap, right? Some people, even these pieces that I have in here, like would consider this too small. They're like, nope, this is not enough to work with. Out it goes. I know people that even once the project's done, that fabric's gone. Like they never want to see it again. And I get that way with a lot of my scraps. A lot of my scraps come here to the shop because I don't do a lot of scrappy quilts per se because I don't have a lot of free time to do my own quilting. So I do my project and then fabric needs to leave my room because I always have something new coming in. So I just donate them here to the shop because we have where we sell bags of scraps. And there are people that love them, but I have seen where people are using like tiny scraps, every little bit, but I see them in art quilts. I mean, there's all kinds of fun ways to play with your scraps too, especially the little ones. People get super creative. I've seen them use them, especially kind of that art quilt, but do like a piece of tulle over the top. So you take a piece of fabric, dump all your little bitty scraps, tulle over the top, quilt the living daylights out of it, and it's super cool, and you can create essentially a new piece of fabric out of it. So that's always kind of fun to be creative and outside of the box when working with those tiny scraps. And I've seen ladies even like go around like we're doing a retreat right now and be like, are you gonna save that? Or are you gonna throw that away? They'll be like, I take the scraps, give me your scraps if you're gonna throw them away. And so there are those ones that are like, please. They love the scraps. So make sure, like if you are maybe in a class or retreat and you don't want them, you may want to see if somebody else is interested in your scraps because they love them and do all kinds of fun with them. Of course, there's this one. It's rediscovering your stash. Since we're kind of talking about stash busting, scrapping, all those kinds of things. And so this just gives you some fun projects to use up your stash. especially if you're kind of beginner, this one works, you know, a little more squares and rectangles, those kinds of things, versus some of the other books I showed you that were more curves and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, scraps are great for working with improv, because a lot of improv is non-traditional piecing. That's not just squares and rectangles. It's chunks and bits and just sewing things together. So we just got this book in Inspiring Improv, which I do love, because it kind of teaches you how. Like, improv is to me, a newer concept that I've just started really playing with. And I know it's not super new. You know, improv's been around. But it was a little harder for me to start getting into, because it's a little more unstructured per se. So, you know, trying to get into that free flow of just taking scraps, taking pieces, slapping them down, chopping them into weird, you know, and eventually either turning them into squares or really just an entirely free-form quilts is definitely out of my box, out of my comfort zone. So maybe if you're looking for something to stretch you into new and different, which I always encourage, maybe improv is where it's going to be at for you, of learning something new. And like I said, you know, they're scraps. You've already made, you know, your project, your bag, your quilts, whatever. So, you know, they're leftover pieces. I don't think you should worry as much as like you're going to screw it up. You know, they're your leftovers. And if they're like my leftovers, sometimes they're kind of old leftovers, and better to play with them and create something new and different than let them just sit there and be lonely and wanting some love. And of course, foundation paper piecing is one of my loves. And so at market last year, we found the Scrappy triangles. I love this because my favorite thing is each paper foundation is a different design. So if you make your way through this, you end up with a whole variety. And so here's some samples. I love my employees. They make me great samples. I stole this off of the display. And so this is what you can create using some of these squares. So what they did is they took one, copied it 4 times, and so then it would make secondary designs. But I love it because all she did was use up fabrics. This employee, Miss Kim, we love, because she does. She takes, especially when I bring in scraps, like I'll come to her first and go be like, do you want my baby, you know, my little baby scraps? Because I don't want them. I don't have time for them. And she does. She makes wonderful, fun stuff and bringing it back in and like, look what I made. And you're like, how? How did you all of a sudden turn this into that? But she's fabulous at it. Yeah, but like I say, if you like foundation paper piecing, this is great. And she's got some different sizes coming out that we will have in the store. And then, of course, you can go full kind of improv. This quilt here I brought in. This is about the scrappiest quilt I own right now. Like I said. But this was a technique I learned from Judy Irish maybe 20 years ago, where this was essentially a piece of muslin that I then just sewed strips on. And so I used that muslin as a background, or backing, like a stabilizer. And these are all random size strips. And so this was a challenge quilt that I did with a group of ladies that I absolutely love. And then I just sewed this semicircle onto the top where the edges were, and then added it in with the other blocks. So it was kind of fun, and this is a fun technique because you can do any size block. You can do squares, rectangles, whatever you want to do. My original one that we did, that I took her class, was actually squares, and we did full circles, and I wanted to do a little bit different for this challenge, and that's why I did rectangles, because I wanted it to give that kind of sunrise or sunset feel for this challenge. But my original quilt from that class was squares. Unfortunately, that quilt is overly loved and starting to fall apart. It's had a little too much love in my home. So this was a better one to show for how to work with some scraps and create something fun and different. So this is kind of that getting out of the box. If you're interested in me teaching this maybe as a virtual class, please make sure you comment in the Facebook comment section, and that is something I potentially will work on, because this has been in my brain of, this would be kind of fun because it's a little more free form, it uses up that stash, and creates just kind of a cool different effect. beyond just your normal quilt blocks. So, it's, like I said, scraps, it's all over the board. But this was kind of some of the fun. So hopefully maybe I've given you some tips on how to work with scraps, how to play with scraps. Make sure that you are following us on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and TikTok and YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel where we do a lot of our tutorials, and we like to share a lot of our inspiration on our social medias of different things. And you can comment on any of those. Make sure that you're liking and subscribing on them so that you can keep up to date with all the events that we have here in the store and online. We're doing a lot more virtual classes and so-longs, those kinds of things. And as always, like I say, if you're interested in something, please let us know. Comment, reach out to us. You can email info@Quilting Mayhem. I love to create classes to teach you guys new, different techniques and those kinds of things. So.
And we have a comment from Julie. She says that she is interested.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Yay! I think this one's fun. So, all right, Miss Julie, I will work on that. I think this would be great, and this is absolutely something you can do virtually from home. I have faith, because this will get you out of your box. So thank you. I appreciate you commenting on that.
We also have a comment from Lynn who says hi, because she's in the building.
She's in the building. Yay! That is the thing about having a stage, is I'm hiding from everybody. But even in the building that you're watching, yay! Hi, Lynn. I'll come find you. Don't worry. So I do appreciate you watching and following along, because that's what helps keep us going. So as always, hopefully we have inspired you to try something new, maybe get out that stash and start cutting it up, playing with it, and creating something new. And make sure you share it. If you do create something, please make sure you're posting it on Facebook or Instagram, and make sure you tag Quilting Mayhem and Quilt Sosational. Follow both those groups. So go to Facebook, make sure you're part of the Quilting Mayhem Facebook and the Quilt Sosational, because that group of ladies, we are having a fun time just trying to inspire you to create. And each month we're going to have something new. May actually is my month next month, so I've got all kinds of fun things. I might just give you a hint that we're going to do some celebrating next month. So make sure you're going to follow along for that, because we're going to do all kinds of crazy things in May and have a lot of fun. So I hope you guys are having a lovely day, and keep on stitching.